Welcome to Mind Your Wedding Business Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Dennis. In addition to leading the charge at Wedding IQ, I also run Fantasy Sound Event Services, a lighting and entertainment company based in Livermore, California, that I founded over 35 years ago. Each week on this podcast, you'll hear thought-provoking and empowering interviews with wedding professionals who have found success in the industry. If you're a business-minded wedding pro who loves love, but also cares about their bottom line, buckle up and get ready to learn from a new industry expert each week. All right, folks, welcome to another Mind Your Wedding Business podcast. We have the one and only, the Flower Guy Bron Hansboro.
Hi.
One of my favorite, I'll be honest with you, Bron, you're one of my favorite speakers. Every time I see you speak, I get energized and motivated. I always enjoy listening to you talk. So I was really excited today to talk about creating the 5-star client experience. So exceeding the expectations of our high-need clients. So high-end clients.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm excited. So tell me, how do you create the 5-star client experience for your clients?
That is a great question. And until you asked it, I never really processed through exactly what it is. Well, I think in hindsight, it's a matter of listening. It's a matter of intuition and assuming people's needs, and only a true professional can do that. And so what I have practiced over the last few years in pulling from my experience as a special educator and a public school administrator is listening skills. I cannot overemphasize how important it is as an event professional to mitigate their own thoughts about the event and get a full hold on what the couple is expecting. How are they expecting the host? Right. Let's start there. I think that I think I'm seeing a lot of mood boards come out immediately. And I think that more importantly is to understand the philosophy of your couple and how they're intending to host. Are they formal in nature? Are they more casual in nature? How do they live? Are they in the most Tony part of town, which might influence some of their decision making? Or are they a middle class family? I think all of these pieces of the puzzle help you understand them at a molecular level so that you can infer what they need. And to me, that's the truest level of service, is people not having to ask. And so what we prided ourselves on, because of a decade of time trusted processes, we just really pride ourselves on understanding what milestones need to be hit when and where. And we have a network of wonderful vendors that we work with that help align our clients with the best professionals so that their experience getting to the finish line is just as beautiful as the presentation at the end of the day.
Well, and it's funny that you say listening, and I always forget that you were in public school. So it makes sense that you had to be a good, I think that's where a lot of us miss the boat, is we're focused so much on getting that Instagrammable moment and I just did a walkthrough with a planner that was not listening to the client. And at one point, the father of the bride looked at me and he goes, "Is she listening to me?" And I'm like, oh, and I'm not having to, it was in my head. I was like, no, she's absolutely not listening to what you guys are planning. She's trying to do the wedding that she wants to do, not what, it is. And I think it's amazing when you say, how do you plan on hosting? So.
Yeah. And, I think it's easy also, Kevin, to get into a rut, especially with venues and with planners, for example, having worked the spaces so many times, seem to have the firmest understanding of how things have to run. And I've always challenged that slightly. I'm like, how can we truly have a signature event? How can we truly customize this event if we're fitting everyone into the same exact floor plan that works best for catering, for example, or that works best for whatever vendor category it is, but not taking into consideration other vendors' contributions and the wishes of the client. I couldn't tell you how many times we've done walkthroughs where I have been very clear on the client's vision for design and have been told, well, we can't do that, or we typically do this. And I'm like, oh, we've missed the boat because we're service people. So this whole no thing, instead of the no, like, how about we come up with a reasonable solution that still aligns with the mission objective? So I think we just kind of step outside of the box and look at it from a different lens. And maybe that's a weekend off. Maybe we need a little break, but I think it's time for us just to take a nice refresher, step back. I think here. I know I'm on a tangent, but here in
go.
Here in Richmond, so many corporations are becoming headquartered here, building their corporate campuses here. And I'd be remiss as an entrepreneur first not to say, oh my gosh, this is an opportunity of a lifetime to host people and to help people host that are not from this market, that are coming with big city expectations and big city service standard needs. And so you've got to step back and look at your market, look at what the people are asking you for, which requires you to listen. And then I think that we'll have more sustainability in our industry.
No, I think so. I think you're right, because I think too is this people get so, like you said, the photographer's focused on them, and the florist is focused on just the flat, everyone just, but we have to think team, and even like you said, how does the client want to host? What is important? And that's something that I've never heard that aspect of it. And I think that's a smart way of looking at it, because I think too, it'll help clients when you ask that question. That's not a client, something that they're being asked by everyone else.
No, not at all.
No. Anyway. All right. So how can we attract these clients? How do we get them to give them this experience?
Well, I'll tell you this. There are a few ways, but there's a few ways that I've heard. How about there? There are a few things that I've heard people say, whether it was in luxury sales presentations and continuing ed, or whether it was just like, oh, this is my process. I will tell you that in the 10 years that we have been in business, I have never actually sought per se a luxury client. Luxury clients, and I'm using that word lightly, high need, high touch, high brow clients find you. And they find you through their friends, their family. They find you in their network of people. But then the work also attracts them. So a lot of my highest need clients are coming from outside of our city. And strange as it may be, those people are not looking for status quo. Those people are simply looking for the best vendor to satisfy their requirements. And overwhelmingly in our market, because of the body of work that we're able to present, whether it's on social media or our website, people see the work, then they compare 2 or 3 people, and then we'll get a call. But I said 2 or 3 people will get the call. Not that they're not meeting with other people. Now, that is where we have to do a little bit more work and stand out in a crowded market. I don't expect anyone that comes to me is I'm the sole destination. Sometimes we are, but I also expect people to do their due diligence when they're purchasing a perishable, very pricey product. And so what we do to distinguish ourselves and to continue to attract and allure high-end clients is through the service. So what we've done, Kevin, is we've actually brought a new role to our business called a client navigator. A client navigator / client concierge, depending who I'm talking to, is the language I use. So that for this conversation, client concierge. And this role was built out of feedback from some of my key planning clients. These are people who are bringing me tons of clients every year, and they always convert. And after COVID or during COVID, many businesses like myself experienced a major growth. We grew insurmountably throughout COVID. And so what we learned is in that growth, we were losing some of our client touch, and our planners gave us some feedback. And so I said, you know what? to make more money just for me is unacceptable. I need to now invest back into my business and back into my clients. And so the only way that I can maintain that handle on where they are in their process, where the perfect opportunities for upselling are, where the best opportunities for me to influence the design as much as possible is for me to have a dedicated person navigating them through our process. And so this particular role is the first person that anyone encounters in my business. I mean, some people will be like, well, shouldn't that be you? And the reality of the matter is my opportunity to play good cop, bad cop. It's my opportunity to flesh out all the details so that I can show up on stage and be a great showman and salesman for them. And so all the information is created. When they meet me for the first time, it's a horse and pony show totally dedicated to them. I have all of the background information I need to serve them. I have all of the images, and we've already put together the presentation. So now it's a matter of me demonstrating my value. And I don't do that solely through pictures and through a presentation. I do it through demonstrating sure mastery of my craft through different questions that I'm going to ask them. Even though they've already been through the consultation process, there's going to be certain nuances that based on their notes that I'm going to pick up on to throw back at them. And again, it's those questions that they're not used to being asked. And those are the things that people will clearly say, okay, well, price points might be similar. The design deck might look similar, but who proved to me that they are the most professional and the most equipped to do the job? And that is what my clients are looking for. They are not all the way bent on what it looks like. They want to know that this business is going to take my vision and I don't have to think about it anymore. I don't have to worry about, is he going to be on time? And am I going to hear from him again? So it's just covering our bases and making sure that the touch points that you would expect from Neiman Marcus or Bergdorf Goodman sales representative, it's those touch points. It's the cards in the mail. It's maintaining the human touch. And unfortunately, we've moved into so much automation in our industry, and I know it helps. It helps. And I'm not anti-automation, but there's some touch points that a computer and a system cannot do that people still value to this day, no matter how old or how young they are. And it works for us.
That's amazing. And I've never heard this client. But it once you said it, is like light bulb makes sense, kind of thing. So now do they take, so like you said, they do the on take with the client or intake with the client, and then they get all the information.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Please. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So here's the process. And I love sharing it because I want people, even customers or couples that aren't working with me, to have a great experience. And so basically the initial inquiry comes through. Our client concierge receives the inquiry and immediately schedules the consultation. And we found that a whole lot of back and forth slows down the process, and people are less likely to engage the more steps there are to getting to a real person. And so we schedule the consultation immediately. And I don't mean immediately within that day, but we do have some timetables. So from initial inquiry to consultation, my expectation is that it's happening in no more than 11 days, into 11 days. And it's actually written down in a procedure somewhere that they're following. I wrote it so long ago, I don't really remember the exact turnaround, but we don't want it to kick the can too far down the road. We want to be the early bird. So once in the consultation, the client concierge is getting logistical information. However, they're also capturing phrases and things that are repeated throughout the conversation, which helps me understand what the couple is emphasizing for their day. From there, in that meeting, we also schedule the presentation. It's important that while we have them, we're scheduling every next step. So we're not going to send a follow-up email to schedule out a date. No ma'am, no ham, no turkey. We get that, we put the bait in, and we get the bite immediately. So they go ahead and schedule the presentation. My designers and myself take the information build the proposal, and then we have our presentation. On the presentation, the client navigator is always present, as well as myself and my lead designer, because we've already impressed them with our turnaround times. We've impressed them with the fact that they have a dedicated person. So now it's the opportunity for me to pull out even more stops in terms of human capital so that they can see the people and the team that will be driving their day of services. And so we do an entire presentation that might be probably a few more decks than normal, because the level of detail that we provide in these decks, I mean, to texture, to very, very down to small details, because I don't want them to have to ask questions, especially not simple questions. I want to be able to provide so much detail that I'm able to sail through the presentation, and I can keep all eyes on the sales part of it and all eyes on me. And so the fewer details I have, then I might have a couple or a planner say, well, what type of vase are you thinking here? And instead, the vase picture is there with the linen swatch that we're recommending. So I'm giving them so many details. I'm painting the picture for them. So we all know what they say. We're detail oriented, not detail. What is it? Visual. Everyone's visual. They have to see it. And so in our deck, we're providing so many visuals that they almost know what they're going to get. And so by giving those details, I can sail through my presentation without any breaks. And that's important for me to be able to really just wow them with the presentation. From there, I end my engagement. So I ask them, do they have any questions? I present the numbers, and then I pull away from the call. And this is where Nikki goes into closing the deal. And I do that because I present the numbers. I'll explain whatever questions they might have, but this is the good cop, bad cop. And this is where Nikki can then talk to them about different payment options that they have. Kevin, even our wealthiest clients like the idea of financing. Everyone doesn't want to. So we offer financing to our clients. And so various different ways that we onboard our clients, and just giving them options. We said our couples able to go online and have Afterpay, for example. So why in our industry don't they have more access to financing opportunities? So we use a financing company, and people can finance up to 100% of their wedding if they'd like. And again, we're talking about high touch clients or high need clients, but that doesn't always translate to wealthy or money. It could just be, this is where my ceiling is. Maybe I had a $10,000 flower budget, and that extra $5,000 or $6,000 will get me everything that I need. So to me, a luxury touch is for me to be able to offer them a vehicle to access their full picture. And so so I let Nikki do the dirty work in terms of closing the deal and talking money. But what we also do, Kevin, is we send the invoice, or we don't call it retainers anymore. We call it a day reservation. And so we'll send that reservation over while we're on the call, and we walk them through. We make them access it while we have their attention. And it's called behavior momentum. And I learned that when I was working with students with autism. It's a way to kind of keep it rolling and to the final build. And so I've gotten them excited about the proposal. They've gotten to see Bron, and I don't look like I'm working in a warehouse. So it's a lot more formal. And then I let Nikki close the deal, and then she offers them all of the different options. And 9 times out of 10, when you have someone that has been impressed by the presentation and the experience thus far, and then you walk them through the end to the payment link, I mean, it's not manipulation. It's just great sales. And
you're just leading them to water.
Excited. They're leading them to water, and there are really no questions to ask. And so that is that process, which to me is one of our most valuable roles, and one of the things that I feel like that one of the best ads we've had in a while.
No, and like mind blown, because I think, like you said, everyone's visual, And I feel like I think a lot of us through COVID became order takers. We were just, what do you want? What do you want? Because we're so busy.
Yeah,
But I think
absolutely.
we're missing the big show. And I really like the process too, where she's the bad guy. You're not the bad guy. You're the
That's
one
it.
making it all beautiful. You're the star of the show, and she's the one that has to deal with the money. Poor Nikki. So
That poor Nikki. Yes, poor Nikki.
yeah. So now when you do this, does it change for the level? Like you said, high need clients or whatever. Like say we have a client with a lower budget. Is it still the same or process, or does anything
Yeah, well,
change?
I am glad you asked that, because one of the things that we pride ourselves here at the Flower Guy Bron is we consider ourselves the people's florist. And so we know that not all people are high need or wealthy clients. And so we have a vehicle for literally just about every situation. And so we have pastel posies by the Flower Guy Bron, which is a subsidiary that we run through Brooklyn Park Flowers and Gifts, which is our retail store. And so we're able to provide flower collections as low as $2,700. And
Oh wow.
so,
Okay.
yeah, and so those are pretty cash and carry. 10 centerpieces up to 5 bridesmaids bouquets or attendance bouquets, a bridal bouquet, for lack of better words, and a few wearables. And so this kind of cash and carry concept came as we were growing and realizing that a lot of our clients were moving to a more higher end space, but I just didn't feel comfortable leaving behind the couples that gave me the platform to be the Flower Guy Bron. And so
Mm-hmm.
in this case, the inquiry will still come through Nikki and the client navigator space. However, there'll be some indicators on that questionnaire that will help her direct them down the pastel posy route. And that route
Mm-hmm.
is not a route that has any service tied to it whatsoever outside of, email question, call question, and answers. So there really are no adjustments to this, which is why it's able to be at the price point it is. And keeping in mind, everyone has a different need. For the client who has a $2,700 budget, does not need or want to talk to someone all day long. They want to be able to purchase their flowers, know exactly what they're getting. And for them, the security is that it's tied to the Flower Guy Bron. They were not a client that was going to sit and talk with Nikki and have a large budget. They have something that's adjacent to me. It still has my name and our service standard tied to it, but it just doesn't have all of the people aspects tied to it. But then, so that's one category of still luxury because it's meeting the people's needs. And then in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like your typical budget, so say for example, there is a break where I am the sole person involved. So Nikki will handle price points, I would say, from 0 to 30,000. Anything above that is going to be where I need to be the first person that they see along with Nikki. So in this case,
Yeah.
I'm introducing the client to Nikki as a partner in their wedding, even though I make it very clear that they have almost unmitigated, and I'm saying it's not totally unmitigated access, but they have far more access. Yeah, I learned a while back that no one can have that. No one can have
No.
unlimited access.
No.
But in those different price points, I've learned that there are some needs. And with me having the experience working with these clients, whether they were my clients directly or even supporting high friends who serve high need clients, there's just some touch points that I just need to have for continuity of service and understanding their expectations that I would never put on a team member. And so, yeah, so anything
Yeah.
from 0 to 30 is Nikki. Anything above that is solely me, and then she's in the passenger seat. And then anything below 2,700 is kind of one of those things where we still have the retail store, and that's what it's all about:
Yeah.
continuity service. If you can't get that package, you can always come in and get a few bouquets and break them down, and we have vases for you. So it's really something for everybody.
Yeah, no, and I think that's amazing because you're giving them the Bron experience, but in many different levels.
In many
That's
different
amazing.
ways.
And then, so if I spend if I spend 31,000, I get to talk to you a whole lot is what I'm getting. So
yeah, more or less. Absolutely. And then this is the other piece. Once a client has committed and we've committed to them and they've committed to us, the communication certainly opens up with me a lot more. It's just harder to manage all of those different relationships without a signed agreement. So once you've committed and you have a design change, I'm always going to be a part of the design change conversation. However, I don't need to personal flowers updates. I don't need to know, oh, mom wants a pin on corsage as opposed to a wrist. Those aren't going to be the conversation. But if we're talking budget shifts, if we're talking design changes, then those are always going to be face to face with me.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is I think, is no matter what level a client is, they're very needy. It just,
Absolutely.
and like you're saying, it's just like, oh, you like a pin up to what did you say it was a pin to a wrist croissant? I mean, that's
yeah. I don't need to know that. I don't need to know how many more personal flowers. Oh, please. But you want to change color palette? Oh,
yeah. Now that's a whole nother.
Let's hop on a Zoom. Let's hop on a Zoom. Yeah, or you were thinking about doing X. I'm like, oh, let's hop on a call. Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. So let's say so high end, high need clients generally require, more from us. So how do you set up boundaries with these folks? Is it just having Nikki or?
Well, I think having a Nikki I'm fortunate to have a Nikki. I would say that establishing a communication plan up front. I think that during the onboard process, I think that it's important that you understand how they communicate. And I think that the courting process will tell you that. As you're courting the client, you'll learn, like if they send an initial inquiry through your website, and then they sent another inquiry through Instagram, and then they called you and left a message, I'm getting scared. However, that indicates something to me. It indicates something. It indicates either
they're serious.
They're serious, or they are demanding in terms of how quickly they want a response. Or maybe like I'm seeing a whole lot of different things based on like just behavior. And again, my background is in behavior analyzation. So
I was gonna say taking it to a whole nother level here.
Yep. So I can kind of pick up on some of these nuances, and it tells me, okay, well, this person requires a lot of touch. And so for me, establishing that communication plan, do you prefer communication via email? Which to me, you're going to get an email confirmation from our team after any touch point, just because I feel like it's just great for tracking. And some people would say, oh, this is, covering CYA. I'm not a CYAer. I just want to know, like, okay, what conversations were had, what expectations were set. I can go back and look at a log and say, at this date, Nikki committed to this. Okay, perfect. Now this is where we need to be. So I'm up to date in all conversations. So do they prefer emails? Or are they callers? Are they texters? Now I don't really offer that. If people text, they're Nikki is a millennial, I'll say. So I think that a lot of our younger couples relate to Nikki and how they communicate. And my whole thing is, as long as we're capturing the conversations, I'm fine with that and you're comfortable with it. But for me, once you give someone your personal cell phone, you should expect them to call you. You should expect them to text you, and you should expect them to do whatever you would expect anyone that you have given your contact information to, your personal contact information. So just be mindful of that. And so I think that I'm talking to them up front. I think that in certain categories of vendors, people are very transparent about how much phone, email, communication time a client is purchasing. However, for me, it's a matter of understanding how they communicated and doubling down in that. I have some couples who will email me one day a week at a certain time, because this is when they're off rotation. And in that period of time, we're going to reply to them because that is our working time with them. We don't have all week with them. So I think that just setting up that communication plan and saying, say, for example, you have kids. I don't have kids, but I have dogs that have to be fed and walked. And so for people that have kids, maybe a part of your onboarding conversation is introducing them to to the fact that you're a family person and that on Fridays at this time, you have a rehearsal or a practice, and start kind of building in who you are with that process so that they'll understand some of the boundaries because you've set them without saying, don't call me Friday after 5. Because then that would be rude.
Yeah. No, I've coached Little League baseball for almost 14 or 15 years now. And people, I've had clients relate to that so amazingly. Like, parents have related to it because their kids played Little League or softball. And then, so it's just so when I'm like, hey, I can't meet this Wednesday because I'm coaching baseball, and they're like, no problem. But I come back with an alternative to give it to them. And I think I think it goes a long way because they respect the fact that I'm out there in the community and I'm not doing all so much. But anyway, all right. That's amazing, Bron.
Thanks.
You're motivating me. You're getting me excited to go. So
I'm looking for some motivation myself. I'm tired, but hey, we're pushing through.
Yeah, that's right. So over the years, you've been doing this a long time now. Have you had to adjust your client? I mean, how have you adjusted it to get to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And I mentioned earlier the couples who gave us the first shots. I think about the first wedding booking. I think about maybe the first 20 or 30, maybe even the first 50. Like, while you're really still learning, I think about what was important to me then versus what's important to me now. I think early on in my career, I was far more um, impressed by what things looked like. And over time, and then also over time, experiencing higher end service personally influenced how I wanted to make people feel through our organization. And so my service process and standard has grown up with me. And so, in 10 years, you can do quite a bit of growth. And so what it looked like before was, me capturing images. First, I was send me images. It was so imagery based. But then over time, I started realizing, well, I have all these good pictures, but there are a few things in this picture that aren't giving me exactly what I need to know. So I'm like, okay, I need to start asking different questions because they think that this is communicating exactly what I need to know. But then I'm like, well, there's a few things in this image that are inconsistent with what I've been told. And so I think it's just been about earlier, it was the framework of a coloring book, but over time, I've just added more and more shades of color to it to meet the needs, and it's a scalable model. I know, what higher end clients typically are going to need. If I know their venue, if I know their planner, if I know their investment, then I can infer some things there. So it's just a matter of watercoloring it in to align with the needs and scaling that up to meet a higher need, and then kind of scaffolding it down for not so much of a high need.
Yeah. Well, and one thing you just mentioned, like, if you know the planner, the venue, that's probably a whole nother topic that we could probably talk about on the podcast, but it's like having that good synergy that will then, you're putting a good team together. And it's a bad analogy, but I'm like, I always say a wedding is like a war, and you want to go to battle with all the people that you trust, And so because it's really difficult when you have a bad apple, like a bad wedding planner that is derailing the entire thing, or a photographer that just is not following the timeline, or someone is late, so it sounds like too part of this. I think I was.
Yesterday?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Because I had a bad wedding yesterday too. But so that's probably still in all the, having put together a good group of people is important to deliver this, 5-star client experience as well. And that's why I think some of the customers miss the boat, so to speak, because they extend on this, they go big here, and then they're cheaping out everywhere else, and then it's affecting the whole experience, and it's hard for you to deliver that experience. So
absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned how they're focusing their investment and things that are getting so much attention and things that aren't. And, one of the things about our experience is understanding, again, going back to that first comment about how are you hosting? So one of our very first questions is, what's most important to you? And in more scenarios than most might imagine, decor isn't always my client's number one priority. Honestly, a lot of my highest end clients, highest priority is entertainment. And
Mm-hmm.
they are spending just as much money in some cases on 20 plus piece bands and the staging and all of the things that are required to have a band of those calibers. I mean, we had Luke James, for Christ's sake, at a wedding.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
so yeah, I mean, absolutely amazing. If you think for 1 second the Flower Guy Bron was the star of that show, as beautiful as it wasn't about me at
No,
all.
no.
And in those cases, Kevin, if someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I have the best band on the East Coast," I'm going to say, "Okay, then what are we doing on your stage? What are
Yeah.
we doing on your dance?
Yeah.
What are we doing over your dance floor?" That is how I pivot to supply their needs, as opposed to, again, pushing what I feel is right. And then, like, for example, I might have a couple who has another priority. Well, then let's do a showpiece. Let's do something in the room, maybe two things in the room that are going to anchor the space, and then we can go a little less in some different areas where their aesthetic needs are being met, but I'm not exceeding their price point. So to me, that again is luxury. You're getting the bulk of what you want, you're getting the impact, and you're also getting it within your desired investment.
And do you feel like some of this too is a feeling for the client? Like they're feeling like they're getting service. They're feeling like someone's going over the top for them. Therefore, it's giving them that luxury feel that you get like when you go to the Four Seasons or the Ritz-Carlton. You know what I'm saying? One of these,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's all about the feeling.
Yeah. It's so crazy. So, all right. So now I'm a company that is listening to everything that Bron does. And how can I easily make some of these, like, what are some, like, couple nuggets that I can do to change to start giving my clients that experience?
Absolutely. I think one of the first things I'd encourage any fellow business owner in the event space to do is to take a step back. Take a quick step back and just look at your process, look at your business, look at your ideal clients, look at your current clients, and start connecting the dots. Look at your process and say, okay, well, this is what's working. Talk to your peers and see what they're doing. And I think that mentorship is totally underrated in our industry. I think about some of my friends who are in different business sectors. Even my husband, for example, he has mentor galore. I'm like, oh, that's another mentor. I haven't even met that person. They're always looking for more practical information, more knowledge, someone who's done it before that can give them some insights. And so I know that a lot of folk are great at building mood boards and great at creating inspiration boards and have the resources in terms of vendors to pull the look together. However, I am encouraging you to double down into the planning side of things, into the logistics side of things, into honing in on your craft and improving it, because we all want the bigger ticket client. We all think that we know what that client requires. However, there are some learning curves that we have to get around so that we can truly accommodate the client once we had them. I've seen it time after time that the look will attract a client. It wouldn't necessarily only attract my client, but there's different clients for different folk. You might get the person in the door with the look, but are they going to write you the 5-star review? Did they just see the look and have no clue what that process was going to be like? Maybe it took you 3 weeks to get to their email. Was that luxury? So I think that it's a matter of kind of stepping back, looking at your processes, having some camaraderie with your peers, getting some mentorship, and really just aligning your process with your end goal. And if your end goal is to serve a high need client, then understand the needs of that high end client. There's many ways to do it. Go to a high end store. And I think that's really one of the best ways to do it.
Yeah, I always say you can learn a lot by, like we do a lot of corporate events and corporate sales meetings, and sometimes you just got to like take what you do and listen to what they're saying and implement what you do and learn. I mean, because we can learn from outside our industry so much. So, I mean, there's nothing better than, like going to a Louis Vuitton store and getting the way they take care of you and the level, they treat everyone, whether you're buying a $600 wallet or, a $10,000 purse, they treat everyone the same. So no, they give you that whole experience.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. All right. I've learned so much in our little time together here, sir. But and the one thing I did get is I feel like we all need a Nikki. Everyone needs a Nikki in their life. So you gotta...
Nikki's our most valuable, one of our most valuable resources.
So anyway, so Bron, real quick, tell us, how do we connect with you? And then also, can you give us a little, like, you told me before we got something new on the horizon that you're working your rear end off right now. So tell me a little bit. Tell us a little bit about all that.
Well, I'll tell you. So basically, you can find us on every social media platform, primarily Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I was about to say TikTok, but TikTok. All at the handle at the Flower Guy Bron. And we'd love to engage you. It's actually me and my team managing all of the platforms. So we see every message and respond to all of them as well. So everything at the Flower Guy Bron. We also have a few other avenues where you can support and access us. We have Brooklyn Park Flowers and Gifts, which is BK Park flowersandgifts.com. And there you can order flowers and gifts, and we send things all across the country. And then we also, our newest endeavor is called the Event House. In the Event House, our logo is "Come plan your event in the comfort of our home." And so basically,
I love that.
Yeah, thank you. So you can come to the Event House, and we have a wide variety of specialty event rentals, architectural details, full production, lighting, draping, dance floor wrapping, and anything else you can imagine. And so we will actually be launching this business tomorrow with a red ribbon cutting, followed by a launch party tomorrow night. So we're very busy here in our warehouse getting it together, but you can also follow the Event House at the Event House on Instagram and Facebook. So we would love to see you there and to engage us.
I'm writing it down now. I'm going to go follow the Event House right now. So
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right. So a couple questions we always ask our folks here is can you tell us your favorite part of a wedding? What's your favorite part?
Well, my favorite part of a wedding, and this is strange, is after everything is set up, I always have to have the room to myself to sweep. So I have marked myself as a butler, is essentially what I am, contrary to the grandeur of the things that we create. The moment of exchange of the room is the most valuable and the most heartfelt moment for me, is once I have not only designed it and executed, but I go through and make sure that every remnant of my service is gone, with the exception of the beauty. And then I hand the room over to the planning services. So that it's a holistic exchange.
I don't think that's strange. I think that's it's like your sense of accomplishment. It's just like, and you're just tying the bow on what you've just delivered. Yeah, I think that's a great thing. So anyway, all right. I love apps, and you said you have a boring one for us, but what, Bron? And I like to ask, because every business owner, like, I've had people tell me Notes. I've had someone tell me Calm, because they just need that moment of calm. Yeah. So, but what can Bron not live without app-wise to get through the day?
Google Drive. I can't live without it. For years, I've had paper everywhere. I've been a paper person. I mean, backpack full of papers, drawers full of papers. And so we have a newer employee who is very, very well versed in Google Drive and the whole Office suite. And she has absolutely revolutionized my ability to access information. And for that, I am eternally grateful.
Well, I don't blame you, because now you could be anywhere. You could be sweeping, cleaning up the wedding, and you could pull up. Someone can have a question about next week's wedding, and you're like, "Well, let me look," and you can figure it out. And there it is. So, Anyway, all right, Bron. As always, like I said, I've interviewed you a couple times for WIPA, and I've seen you speak multiple times. You're one of my favorite people out there. So,
Kevin,
do me a favor. Next time you see my sister Megan Ely, give her a big hug. So I have
I'll see her tomorrow. If she's not traveling, she definitely was invited tomorrow. Like my local pal. So hopefully I'll see her tomorrow.
But we all know she's a little bit of a fuddy-duddy, so it's also that too. So But I've been out there telling the world that she's my older sister, and people are starting to believe it. It's starting to become such a funny little thing. And meanwhile, she's 10 years younger than me. But I introduce her anytime she's foolish enough to have me introduce her on the stage at Wedding MBA or anything. I always say, ladies and gentlemen, it's proud to introduce my older sister. Yes. So anyway, so please, if you see her, you tell her you talked to her younger brother yesterday. So anyway, all right, Bron, as always, it's such a pleasure, and I look forward to hopefully having you again. We could talk about the event house and how things are going, and maybe we could be talking about design or something as we get down the road. I'm so excited for your new
anytime you'll have
new venture
here. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Bron.
All right, cheers.
To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mind Your Wedding Business podcast, brought to you by Wedding IQ. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode. Please get in touch with me if you have a topic you would like for me to cover, or if you are in the area of your business you're struggling with, let us know. We'll be happy to help. I encourage you to check out our other episodes on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're a fan, we'd love to hear from you, and we'd love for you to subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. It helps others find our podcast so they can learn from our guests too. Thanks again for listening.